This is me, Elise. I'm writing a documentary about consent. And much like my friend's ass-casting art project, I have to follow a process. Phase 1. Select material and use layers. Phase 2. Wait for things to harden. Phase 3. Show off. Final product. I'm pleased to present Asking for Sex, a project where I'm asking men about consent, where they have had fails, and where they see themselves growing in the years to come. How would you define consent?
That's a great question.
Like, for me, that means that both sides know what they're getting into and know what they're getting into in their full faculties as well.
Consensus is that consent is getting permission.
You can create a model of what someone else might be thinking about you or what someone else might be thinking of your actions. And when you're 2 or 3 years old, you're not quite there. You'll just go up to the other kid and take their toy. And you don't ask for permission because you don't have a sense in your mind that might violate some privacy or it's the other kid's toy. So I think of consent as starting when you develop this theory of mind or ability to empathize, which happens differently for kids, but usually around the age of 5 or 6.
That if you really want to know that you're on the same page with somebody, then you should probably try to be as clear as possible that that's the case.
Being welcomed to take a certain action, and sometimes that can be asking permission.
The way I was not taught, but the way I kind of learned to have sex was that you just kind of get in it and don't talk, and then it's done, right? That's how it is in the movies, right?
Yeah.
They just have sex and then that cuts to
And
the
then you
next
have a
scene.
cigarette.
Right. And so that's the model, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have good sex ed.
But sexual consent, I don't think I was ever taught, about that explicitly, other than expressing your sexuality, at least as I was raised, was not what you were supposed to do until you were married.
I wish I could say my parents sat me down and said, this is how you should approach human beings. Being a human yourself, this is good to know. They never did that at all. In fact, they were very hands-off parents.
But I always found myself in situations, as a teenager where you're just, with a girlfriend or something and feeling turned on, and all of those ideas about consent just sort of go out the window, and you just start acting and reacting in relation to how the other person is reacting to you.
Consent. Some people get more practice than others. And some people are really good at it. But what happens when things don't go right? Tell me about a consent fail that you've had before.
Okay. I had a friend. I got the impression that this friend was very interested in me in a romantic way, potentially a sexual way, where we were at parties together and they would be slightly inebriated, trying to make a move on me, either kissing my neck or, taking off their clothes in front of me or whatever. And I attributed it half to the party experience and half to them actually being into me. I had spent the night at their house. The next morning, I woke them up and went to kiss them, and it was not well received at all. It was actually made out to be a huge violation, and not to invalidate their experience of it, but it was I had it that it was a go, and it really absolutely was not.
I remember in kindergarten, there was this girl, Katie, in class one day where I had something that I think it was a pineapple juice that I was drinking, and I thought this pineapple juice was really, really good. And I wanted her to have some.
Pineapple juice.
Me too.
Yes.
I was like, and I tried to give her some. She said she didn't want any because, well, oddly, I think it was because it wasn't organic. And I guess you could only eat organic things. And this was way before. This was 1995 or 6.
Whoa.
So this was way before organic was something anybody knew about. And so she said she didn't want any, and so I poured. But I was just like, nope, you're gonna have some anyway. And so I poured juice in her cup, and she got upset. And then, well, I was told you can't just do that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess I wouldn't want somebody doing that to me if I didn't want that to happen. I was like, yeah, okay.
There was a girl I went on a date with, and it was just the first date, and we drank way too much, and we ended up at my place at the end of the date, and all of the cues or the hints I had earlier in the night when we were just a bit more sober was that, she wanted, physical affection and to be intimate. And by the time we got to my house, she was just barely conscious, and there was the energy and the excitement of wanting a sexual encounter, but I couldn't get consent, and I felt sort of awful about sort of forcing myself on the situation. So I felt I was not given consent by the nature of the situation. So I was rejected, so to speak, but it was more my decision about how to judge the situation.
A woman I ended up dating for a little while, we had a great first date, was really just so excited about being around her. And at the end of the night, I asked if I could kiss her goodnight. And she said no. And we later ended up dating and so on. But we later talked about it. And it was, for her, she was just like, this was too intense, right? It was too much. She wanted to run away from it. And I get that.
The idea? You're seeing more than a halfback going for a touchdown, a southpaw burning a strike over the inside corner, a sharpshooter nailing the basket from midcourt. You're seeing more than a cannonball serve and a neat right cross to the jaw. You're looking at the spirit of America. This is the way we like it, fast and hard-hitting and clean. Instinctively, Americans love fair play. It's built up from childhood. Give the other guy an even break. Play the game on the level. Don't hit a man when he's down. There's a 15-yard penalty for clipping, and the fighter who hits below the belt gets tossed out of the ring. We like it fast and hard-hitting, and we like it clean. When you step from the gridiron to no man's land, the rule book is buried and forgotten. Here there are no penalties except the one for losing, and it's not measured in yards. It's measured in life and death. War is the law of the jungle. Kill or be killed.
Masculinity was exemplified during World War II. The era was shaped by anxieties concerning gender, sexuality, and the male self. It was even more exaggerated after World War II had ended. The continued emphasis on hard masculinity was intended to maintain political and economic stability. You see, being soft risked being viewed as a threat to national security. The threat dominated cultural and political life throughout the 1940s and 50s, only encouraging Americans to further promote masculine toughness, capitalism, and the male breadwinner ideal. The violence of World War II had a lasting impact on American society, and masculinity was radically altered by the war. Have you ever felt violated?
Sexually, no. But, like, just in terms of consent, yeah. Like, I was bullied a little bit in grade school. I was always just a little shorter or, you know, a little smaller than some of the other guys. So, you know, they would want to just treat me like a younger brother or something, and just sort of be physical. And I would just want to beat them on the basketball court or the soccer field rather than kind of get punched at. So I didn't feel like I was consenting to roughhousing with other guys, and they just wanted to do it because I was smaller. So that was like a feeling of violation that bothered me.
So some of my college friends, like, they give me shit, like, you know, like like very like rough physical horseplay, and like I know, like, I don't really want to engage in that like all the time, but like it's one of those things. Sometimes I'm just like, all right, like, that's fine, I'll just engage back a little bit too. Because, like, I also read into that, like, okay, there's, like, some, like, obviously there's, like, in this kind of, like, male-to-male interaction, like, you have, like, various subtextual, like, dominance, hierarchy sorts of, like, interactions at play, probably.
When I was very young, I had a friend whose older brother a few times convinced me to experiment with giving and receiving blowjobs. In exchange for candies or playing their video games or whatever. At the time, didn't occur to me as a traumatic experience, per se. But looking back, it's obviously not an optimal growth setting for a child. I've had a babysitter or two touch me inappropriately, parents, friends making comments about me that you legally should not make about a minor. A lot of violence in my childhood. What would you like to know about it?
Have you ever felt violated?
Yeah. I have. There have been times in which I've felt pressured to have sex. You know, I was with a friend, and she crossed many lines. Each of those lines was places where I said no. And it's interesting because I would never say, like, I wouldn't have thought like I've been sexually assaulted. But if the roles were reversed, if she were a man and I were a woman, it'd be black and white for me. And I think that's interesting.
The double standard, right? Yeah.
And, like, there's a double standard, and I think there's also a little bit of a reason for the double standard. Like, I weigh twice as much as she did. I wasn't physically threatened. I was, like, sexually and emotionally threatened. But, yeah.
So I decided to talk to my fellow photographer friend. You see, photographers have a reputation.
For that, right?
So let me get this. If you are an art nude photographer, you're more likely to be taking pictures with women for sex.
Not only for sex, still for money, right? Because it's how you make money. But also...
So you get money and sex?
I assume that.
That was good. Okay, faster. There you go.
As a woman photographer, I take pictures of male nudes, which I don't get paid for, and there is no sex. Again, like my friend Weston said, there is a double standard. Honestly, until I have worked on this project, I don't think I have ever asked for sex. And I think that is the case for most women across the world.
God, please give me sex.
Behind the scene, there was a scene.
I strongly feel that this may be the reason for today's modern day issues, and that's why I'm working on this project. What if more women asked for sex? What if both men and women were taught how to ask for sex properly? Could this enable more equality? I want to continue this research beyond just men. I want to explore women, couples, lesbians, asexuals, pansexuals, bisexuals, gays. The list goes on and on across the world. All to uncover the stories that we don't share today. You see, it's not just about asking for sex. It's not even really about sex. It's about having a voice.